Welcome to Warrior Bulletin News, your trusted source for timely, accurate, and reliable news worldwide. Stay informed with the truth. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss what matters. The performed version has a quality to it, a slight over-expression of surprise, a recovery that is too smooth, a follow-up that feels choreographed. The real version is different. The real version looks like a person who has just stepped off a curb they did not see, and the expression on their face is not surprised that they stepped off a curb, but the very specific alarm of someone calculating how hard the ground is going to be when they land. Ryan Clark, sitting at the first take desk this morning, had the real version of that expression. And the moment I saw it, the fraction of a second between when he said the words and when he understood what he had said, I knew that what I was about to watch was not television. It was something that happened to be on television, something real, unplanned, and genuinely consequential. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second, but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. Let me build the scene properly. Clark had been brought in as a guest to discuss off-season priorities across the league, which is the kind of broad mandate that gave him comfortable terrain to operate on. Nothing too specific, nothing too sourced, the kind of analytical conversation that an ESPN contributor with Clark's background could navigate in his sleep. The segment had moved through several franchises. The conversation had been crisp and professional and good in the way that good first-take content is good when everything is going according to plan. And then the conversation reached Golden State. Stephen A. had opened the Warriors portion of the discussion by making his argument about what Golden State needed this offseason. The aging core, the question of sustainability around Steph Curry, the need for a scorer who could take genuine offensive load in a way that the current supporting cast had demonstrated it could not do consistently. Shannon had pushed back on the cost of premium acquisitions for a team with Golden State's current cap situation. The exchange had been sharp and substantive and interesting. And then Molly turned to Clark and asked him directly, Ryan, from your perspective, what is the single most important thing the Warriors need to do this summer? Clark leaned forward. He said, well, look, the scoring piece that Stephen A. is talking about, that's real. Their Warriors need that. But, and here he paused, the pause that in retrospect was the pause of someone recognizing a fork in the road a half second too late to take the right path. From what I'm hearing, that might already be addressed. He said, the MPJ situation with Golden State is more real than people think. The studios stopped. It stopped in the specific way that all hands-on-deck situations stop things, completely, simultaneously, with the full attention of every person in the room snapping to the same focal point. Molly's moderator composure shifted to something more focused, more still. Shannon's posture changed from leaning back to leaning forward in what looked like a single muscle contraction. And Stephen A., and this is the part one keep replaying, Stephen A. made a sound that was not quite a word and not quite a reaction, but was somewhere between the two, the sound a person makes when something they suspected turns out to be true and the confirmation is both satisfying and immediately creates 20 new questions. Molly said, wait, Ryan, what are you saying? What are you hearing about Michael Porter Jr. and the Warriors? Clark's expression was the complete uncensored face of someone who has just watched themselves make a mistake in real time and is processing the implications while simultaneously trying to determine whether there is any available recovery that would be convincing. He said, oh, look, I mean, teams are always exploring things. That's just the nature of the off-season. I probably phrased that in a way that was more specific than I intended. Shannon Sharpe looked at him for a long moment without speaking, which is more effective pressure than anything he could have said. And then he said, "Ryan, you said the MPJ situation with Golden State is more real than people think. That's not phrasing, that's information. What is real?" Stephen E. did not wait for Clark to answer Shannon's question before he started his own line of questioning, which meant that for approximately 5 seconds both of them were asking Clark things simultaneously, and Clark was looking back and forth between them with the expression of a man at a press conference who has said something he shouldn't have and is discovering that the reporters have more follow-up questions than he has exits. Molly said, "Gentlemen, one at a time." And then she said, "Ryan, answer Shannon's question. What does real mean?" Clark took the breath that people take when they have decided to say something, but want the breath to mark the decision. He said, "Look, there have been real conversations. I'm not going to characterize the level of specificity because I genuinely don't know all the details. What I can tell you is that this isn't out of nowhere. Golden State has identified MPJ as a piece that fits what they're trying to do, and Brooklyn is aware of the interest. Whether it gets done is a different question, but the starting point of a real conversation exists." Stephen E. leaning forward now, "How long has the starting point existed?" Clark, "Longer than the public conversation would suggest." Stephen E. said, "So, this has been going on since before the trade deadline?" "Potentially." Clark looked at the camera again. He said, "I've said enough." He had said more than enough. But let me take every word of what he said, the accidental and the deliberate, the confirmed and the implied, and build the full basketball picture because the case for Michael Porter Jr. to the Golden State Warriors is one of the most compelling off-season narratives I have analyzed this year. And Ryan Clark's unguarded moment this morning only made me think about it more carefully. Start with the fundamental offensive question facing Golden State as it exists right now in the spring of 2026. Steph Curry remains the most devastating offensive weapon in basketball when surrounded by the right architecture. His gravity, the floor warping, defensive structure collapsing gravitational pull that his shooting creates is still operating at the level that makes the Warriors' offense uniquely dangerous when it is working correctly. The issue is everything around that gravity. Their Warriors need someone who can convert the open looks that Curry's gravity generates at a volume and efficiency that genuinely threatens opposing defenses. They need someone whose scoring ceiling is high enough that the defense cannot simply load up on Curry without catastrophic consequences elsewhere on the floor. They need, in the most specific possible sense, a wing who shoots elite three-point percentages on high volume and can do so within a motion offense framework that requires basketball intelligence as well as shooting talent. Michael Porter Jr. is that player in a way that almost nobody else available in this off-season market is. His three-point shooting efficiency has been elite across multiple seasons. He has posted percentages in the high 30s to low 40s on volume that makes it impossible to simply not guard him. He is 6'10", which means he shoots over closeouts in a way that creates problems for even disciplined defensive rotations. And his ability to operate as a movement shooter, to use screens, to catch on the move, to be a constant offensive threat even without the ball in his hands, makes him specifically compatible with the Warriors' motion offense system in a way that other high-volume scorers are not. Now construct the specific nightmare for opposing defenses. Steph Curry on the ball with Michael Porter Jr. as a floor spacer. This is not a theoretical construction. This is a practical, film-supportable, adjustable in real-time offensive problem. Every defensive philosophy that works against Curry, that the extra help, the shadow coverage, the hedge and recover schemes, requires the help to come from somewhere. It comes from the wing rotation. It comes from the weak side collapse. It comes from the kind of coordinated defensive effort that takes multiple players out of their ideal positions to address one ball handler's dominance. When the wing rotation is occupied by a 6'10" shooter who hits 38% of his threes on high volume, the rotation cannot come from the arrives. Curry draws the double. MPJ catches the kick and shoots over the scrambling defender. The geometry of this is brutal, and it is exactly what Golden State's system was designed to create. Their Warriors have known all about this problem, the absence of a proper offensive complement to Curry, for longer than the current off-season. The reason the problem has not been solved is partly asset availability and partly the specific cost of a player of MPJ's caliber. Brooklyn, as Clark acknowledged in the portion of the conversation that he clearly intended to make on the record, is aware of the interest. The Nets are rebuilding. They have young talent developing. They are accumulating draft capital, and they are carrying a $40 million scorer who is performing at a level that vastly exceeds what a rebuilding team needs from its best player. The business case for moving MPJ this summer, before he reaches free agency and potentially walks without any compensation, is as clear for Brooklyn as the basketball case for acquiring him is for Golden State. Clark said the conversations have been going on longer than the public conversation would suggest. This is the detail that makes the situation feel genuinely different from the standard off-season trade speculation. Most trade rumors at this stage of the calendar are genuinely exploratory. One side floats a name, the other side sends a contact's contact a text message to gauge theoretical interest. Nothing substantive develops. What Clark described is something more advanced than that. He described mutual awareness, active communication, and a foundation that exists independent of the public reporting. That is the language of a trade conversation that has moved past theory into logistics. The injury history is the counterargument, and I want to spend real time on it because it is the argument that Golden State's front office would have to grapple with most seriously. MPJ has had back surgery. He has missed significant stretches of multiple seasons. He is 27 years old, which is the age when you expect a player to be entering his peak years. But the surgical history means the question of what his long-term physical profile looks like is genuinely open. For a team with Curry's age and the Warriors' championship timeline, acquiring a player with MPJ's injury history on a contract of his value is a risk with real downside. Not theoretical downside, but the specific documented kind that comes from watching a player's career be repeatedly interrupted by physical breakdown. But here is how the Warriors front office should think about this risk. They are not acquiring Michael Porter Jr. for a 10-year plan. They are acquiring him for the specific window that still exists around Steph Curry, the next 2, maybe 3 seasons, during which Curry can still perform at the level required to compete for a championship with the right supporting cast. In that window, the question is not whether MPJ's body will hold up for a decade. The question is whether he can stay healthy enough, often enough, to be the scoring complement that transforms Golden State from a competitive team to a championship-level one. And given his recent production, averaging approximately 24 points per game at elite efficiency for Brooklyn, the answer to that question in the specific 2 to 3 year frame is yes. This is a bet worth making. Ryan Clark said more than he intended to this morning, and the moment between when he said it and when he understood what he had said was the best unscripted television I have watched in months. But the substance of what he said, beneath the chaos of the moment and the attempted recovery and Stephen A's relentless follow-up questioning, was something important. The Golden State Warriors and Michael Porter Jr. have been in conversation. The interest is mutual. The foundation is real. And the basketball logic that would generate that interest is as clear and as specific and as compelling as anything I have analyzed this off-season. Watch this space, and watch what happens the next time Ryan Clark comes on First Take, and Molly asks him a question he thinks is simple.